Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Jean Gallagher, Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better. And we're talking with Denise Stegall. Hey, Denise.
Hey, Jean.
And we're covering understanding menopause and hormones. And make sure everybody listens to all the segments that are going out on this. And we're going to talk about natural approaches.
Yes, natural approaches, like so many of us want to be natural. Like we don't want to put stuff in our bodies if we don't have to. I'm always an advocate, natural first, medicine has its place. And I think that's really important to say up front, because sometimes you just need support, you just need help. And whatever works for someone works for someone. But I want them to start with this understanding that there are some natural approaches. So let's start there. Some of the most basic ones, mind-body techniques and sleep. That actually helps, because when we have our estrogen and progesterone, when our hormones are fluctuating so much and both of them are declining, we're not sleeping well. So then we're stressing out, and then that's raising our cortisol, all of these crazy things. Like I mentioned in a couple of the other segments, one thing being off balance just really just kind of trickles down to some of the other hormones in our body and chemical reactions in our body. So if we're actually paying attention and doing some mind-body techniques, yoga, meditation, deep breathing exercises, this can actually help us calm our body, calm that flight or fight system in our body, so we can sleep, so we can relax. So when we're always in this tense state, it makes hot flashes harder. It actually increases them. One, I think because we're thinking about it, and kind of law of attraction, if you're thinking about something, it kind of happens. So that's
not what you want to attract.
Right, exactly, not what you want to attract. So I think that's the most basic natural remedy. It's not really a remedy, but it's something that you can incorporate into your healthy lifestyle.
I think before you go any further, I think that's really important, because whenever we're looking to help our health, we're always looking for those more complicated things, and not realizing or remembering that some basic skills we have available to us on a regular basis, and it costs zero.
Absolutely. You're right. We always want to make things more complicated. And because, menopause is a stressful time, we don't know how we're going to feel from day to day, sometimes from minute to minute. And so being able to just step back and breathe into it and regroup changes your mindset. And with a calming mindset, you really can manage this, the change so much with more grace. And so, yeah, that's an easy thing that we can all do. Now, is it going to make them stop? No, but it's going to help you manage the change better, with more grace, and really with more peace, because it can be so stressful. It is stressful, but if we're adding more stress to it, it just makes it worse. So the mindset piece, that breathing piece, just being able to step back and say, okay, calm. And like you said, this is something that you can do at any moment, and it doesn't cost anything. So when I was 37 and I started with perimenopause, I found a woman. It's actually a story I tell why I started Living Healthy List. I had been searching online for anything, any help, but it wasn't, buy my product, take my program. I just needed to talk to somebody, because my doctor basically told me, sorry, at your age, it's just a phase, you'll be fine. And I wasn't. I needed help. And so at one point I came across a website. They were called Women to Women at the time. And I took a survey and what was going on. It asked me questions that the doctor didn't ask me, or no one else had ever thought to ask me. And so I sent that survey off. And about 15 minutes later, I got a phone call from a nurse from this company. And again, she asked me a lot of questions. She let me cry. And at that very moment, she had something she could have sold me. Instead, she said, let's track and see what's going on when things are happening so I could have a better understanding of what my body was telling me. And so we did that for 2 weeks. And at the end of it, understanding what was going on, she said to me, I have a product. I would like for you to take it for 3 months and see how you feel. She says, this may be your answer. He said, it may be part of an answer. Let's just see. And because I trusted her, because she was really talking to me and she was working with me, that I said yes right away. I bought my 3-month supply. And I took that medication, or it's an herbal supplement. I took this herbal supplement until probably about 3 or 4 years ago. My hormones started to change again. So, it was time to do something different. But there are so many over-the-counter remedies that people have talked about for hundreds and thousands of years. Eastern medicine, this is what they do. Things like black cohosh, red clover. Now, again, this has been used traditionally in Eastern cultures for menopausal symptoms, though I'm told that many of the women in those cultures don't really suffer from the symptoms that we tend to in the West. And that could be a whole slew of reasons. Diet, they eat a lot more soy in some of those countries, cultures. The challenge with some of this stuff, of course, is it's not regulated. So you don't really know how much of this stuff we're getting. But there are, like this company, they were called Women to Women. Now they're called, I think, Women's Health Network. This is a company that I trust because it's run by a female OBGYN. Her entire practice are women. They've all, at this stage, most of them have, gone through menopause or are going through menopause. So they understand what's happening. And these are herbal remedies that they have, that they've created. They're different ones. This particular one that I've taken is called Herbal Equilibrium. I just told my sister that she should try it for 3 months and see how she feels. So there are lots of things that we can do naturally. Drinking simple things, drinking cool water instead of hot water. Well, if you're already getting hot flashes, why are you adding more hot water? Right? Eating cooler foods. If you're, I love spicy food, but I don't eat the spices the way I used to because it makes me hot. So again, this is a natural remedy, not necessarily herbal, but yeah, I guess some, eating real food, there's your herbal, right? That goes back into that food part. So there are companies that are reputable. And I would say to do your research here because there are tons of companies. There are probably thousands of companies. There are probably 10,000s of companies that have a product. But you want to make sure that you find one where you can actually talk to somebody. If they're just going to send you a supplement and that's it, that doesn't really help you.
You need to make sure that it's appropriate for you. And in order to do that, you have to understand you need a baseline. You have to understand where you're at and what needs to be regulated, not just I have hot flashes or I have this or I have that. You really have to understand the whys behind it in order to be able to find the right remedy or treatment that's going to assist.
So glad you said that because I have this great test. It's not my test. Somebody told me about it years ago and I've taken it. I took it in 2022, December 22 and December 2023. It's called the Dutch test. I don't know if you can see that.
Yes.
Okay. So the Dutch test, this is actually my results from the Dutch test that I took in this past December 2023. And what this does is it measures a wide range of hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHEA, cortisol. All of these are hormones that, are in your body that you need to be in a certain, balance. The interesting thing though, too, is it provides insights into when these are high, when these are low. I found out that my cortisol level is high at night. Well, my melatonin should be high at night. So what's going on there? Guess what? I haven't been sleeping. This is I wouldn't have known that had I not taken this test.
And traditional medicine would just want to give you a sleeping pill.
Yes. Now, this is not something from your traditional doctor. I see a naturopath who provides this test. So I take the test. It goes to a lab, a specific lab. For this particular person that I work with, they work with a specific lab. So it goes to the lab, and it takes a few weeks to get back. But I'm shocked when I first took this. I was shocked to see where my levels were, and thought to myself, well, no wonder why I'm not sleeping. No wonder why I'm having night sweats, because my estrogen was literally in the tank, because they measure it like your gas tank. And when I first took it, my estrogen level was postmenopausal. It was 50 years old. Wow. I'm thinking, this can't be right, but it was right. Again, all of these things, there's, nothing is 100%, but this gives you a baseline, like what's kind of happening at that time. Now, I've had this conversation with a medical doctor just recently who says, well, hormones levels fluctuate during the day and, from day to day. I know that, but they're not going to fluctuate from, postmenopausal to, you're 25 again in a short period of time. Yeah, sure. They might fluctuate a little bit, from, I don't know, 10 or 20, however they measure it. If you don't know what's going on in your body, how do you know what to take or how to fix it? And it's, menopause isn't a problem. It's just something that our body goes through that we just have to understand better and manage. And this is a tool to help us do that. What I liked in this one, and I mentioned this a second ago, was it tracked my cortisol patterns. And so, we know cortisol usually, cortisol kind of as you're waking up, cortisol goes up. Can't see me on the picture. It goes up. And then as the day goes, the cortisol goes down, but your melatonin goes up, because melatonin is that sleep hormone. So that helps you to fall asleep. Well, mine was so high and the melatonin so low. How would I have known that? I would not have. But you're right. Somebody would have said, oh, well, take a sleeping pill, or here, try this over-the-counter thing that is, for sleep. Or a melatonin, maybe something to raise my melatonin. And maybe that would have worked. Maybe it wouldn't have. So I think it's really important to understand what's available to people. So with the results of this test, I use something called, it's a bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. Now, this is a plant-based hormone. So phytoestrogens, phyto being from plants. So there's nothing synthetic about it. And they're processed from plants, which is good. Those plants are our friend. But it really, to me, it's more than treating symptoms. It really is about transforming your life, becoming, becoming you again. So often menopause just makes women feel like they don't like themselves. They don't like the way they look. They don't like the way they feel. They're unhappy, because all of those hormones are making them, tired or gain weight, low energy, and back to sleep. So it really is about transforming your life. And so the bioidentical that I use is a cream. They also have companies that have a patch. I've been told to stay away from that, and I don't remember all of the reasons why. But the other option is a pill or a cream. And so I think there's lots of options. Again, this is something that you need to find the person who's going to help you, who's going to speak with you, who's really looking out for your best interest, rather than just, giving you something because this is what they have, or traditional medicine, which would give you hormone replacement therapy, which is synthetic. This is interesting, and I've just been hearing about this lately. And this is something, I've seen a commercial about this, and you may have seen this too, Jean. The product is called Veozah, Veozah, Veozah. And it's actually a drug tailored to diminish the frequency and intensity of hot flashes and night sweats. It is It's unlike regular hormone therapy, because guess what? It is a phytoestrogen. It's phytoestrogen. It is not, so it's not synthetic. It is made from plants, not necessarily a phytoestrogen, but it is made from plants. Now, why is this important? Because regular hormone therapy has been known to increase the risk of breast cancer, blood clots. Those are two things when you're on HRT, whether you're on birth control or hormone replacement therapy for menopause. Those are two things that they warn you about. There's an increased risk. Now, it's probably not like 100 times or 50 times, but there is an increase. So you need to know about that, right? Same thing with blood clots. If you're on a plane, if you're sitting a lot, I'm on a plane a lot. That's something that I really needed to understand, because the risk, so I know when I'm on a plane, even though I'm taking bioidentical, I know I should probably move around a lot because I was on birth control for a lot of years. And even though I've been off for the last 3, that was that fun thing. I was on birth control hormones until I was 50 years old, and switched over to the bioidentical. Since I've been on the bioidentical, I feel like myself again. And truly, that's what it's all about. It's feeling like yourself. It's loving yourself and living a life that, that you love. I remember when I was young, menopause was like, if you were, you were an old lady. 83 years old. She's not an old lady. She's an older lady. But I don't look at her and say, oh, she's an old lady there, because she's still moving around and she's doing her thing. Yeah, there are some women who, get to that stage and, are old ladies. But I don't know about you, but I'm not going to be that old lady. And this is one way for us to, lots of planning, and it's about longevity. We're living longer. We want to live longer, but we also want to live better, and we want to enjoy those years that we have.
So much to talk about, so much to think about. And Denise, thank you so much for breaking it down into these segments. And if anybody has any questions, reach out to Denise, check out her website. And if she doesn't have the answer, she has experts in all different areas that she can connect you with.
Thanks, Jean.
Hello, everyone. This is Jean Gallagher, Discover Rising Tides, and I want to just take a moment to talk about my friend, Denise Stegall. I am honored to call her as a friend, and I'm so grateful that she gives us her insight during our shows, each show, and talks about healthy living, eating real food. You hear Denise say, eat real food a lot. Well, she means it, and she knows what she's talking about. She is an amazing healthy living coach, curator at Living Healthy List. And if you ever have any questions about what is real food, why does it matter, how does that apply to me, how do I change, what do I need to do, how do I even create a healthy living shopping list, make sure that you call her. She is your healthy living coach, and you can find her at healthylivinglist.com. First, I'm excited to introduce Saraphina Churchill. Hi, Saraphina.
Hello.
Saraphina lives in Cape Cod, so I'm excited to talk about East Coast. And she's a coffee drinker, a cat owner, and a business imager. Images captured by a camera and created on a computer help tell a story. After all, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Images by Saraphina has been enhancing brand stories for small businesses and sales professionals through photography, graphic design since 2008. So, welcome.
Hello, this is so exciting.
I am so glad to have you here. And so it's amazing what COVID has done for us. And I say this every time I talk to somebody, I feel like, because without COVID, we wouldn't have met, most likely. And Lynn Schuessler-Williams. So Lynn is the connector of all great people. And we both met each other in one of Lynn's many women's networking groups. So that was exciting.
It's so true.
Oh, yeah, so true. And so it's nice to meet you, and it's nice to talk to another East Coaster. So I am a recovering, I'm a recovering West Coaster or something. Maybe I wish I was on the East Coast. I'm dislocated, and but we're a coast to coast show today. So how are things on the Cape?
It is a gorgeous day today. It's about 65 degrees out, beautiful, sunny, which for April is a
Can't
blessing.
complain.
Just never know.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm not going to turn that down. So let's talk about it. There's so much we want to talk about, learning about your business and then obviously talking about the outdoors, but you are fresh from vacation too, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that was good.
Yes, I had a great vacation in a different beautiful beach environment, and it was amazing to not have to work and just enjoy the outside all week long. It was great.
Yeah. So what did you do for yourselves during vacation?
It was waking up before the sun and walking to the beach and watching the sunrise over the water almost every morning.
Wow, fantastic.
And getting coffee and walking the beach. And then we found a different beach that had a lighthouse. So that was a whole other adventure that we drove to said new beach, but then walked it and saw a lighthouse. It was just a different view, but still beautiful day outside all day.
Fantastic. So did you find that the sunrise was different in South Carolina than it is on the Cape?
Well, the birds that show up at sunrise are certainly different. I think that sunrises over the ocean on the East Coast are probably pretty similar regardless, but the other scenery, it changes quite a bit. So, I mean, I was seeing palm trees and pelicans on vacation, and normally it's no trees at all near the water, and it's, seagulls. So this was a totally different.
And a turn or two.
Yeah. So it was very, very fun to see a different environment around the water.
That's great. And vacation refreshes you, doesn't it?
It's amazing. I was really stressed out the week before and really stressed out the week coming back because you have to work extra before and after to make it okay to take that block off. But that week and a half that I was incommunicado was amazing. And I feel much better having gone, and I'm very grateful.
Yeah, I can relate to that because I am about 8 days out from going away for 2 weeks. Yes. I know. And so today I kind of felt the pressure a little bit.
It happens. Yeah. It's so funny that we do that to ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Work hard so you can try not to work hard. And so the challenge for me when I go away, and I'm going to be forced into it because we're going across the pond, is that you don't work when you go away. And that's the whole idea of vacation. But that's really hard to do, not working for me, it's hard for me to I'll just do a little bit, and I'm still on vacation. So how do you manage that? Or is it possible?
This one was the first time that I actually unplugged. I saw one email because it flips across the phone screen kind of thing. And I did answer the one, but it was actually, I was the customer in that scenario. One of my vendors reached out and asked a clarifying question. And I was grateful to have seen, it was almost like, the universe made it okay. This is the one work email you saw. And it was an important question to answer so that the thing I ordered could get in on time.
Beautiful.
So that worked out. Otherwise, I was completely unplugged. I had no idea. I walked back into my office and went, all right, let's see what happened. And it was remarkable that not only did I do it, I managed to go the whole week and a half not working, which was the first time I've ever done that. But also the emails I got were, don't read this if you're still on vacation. It was if you're back, I have this for you. And it was great that the people I work with supported the fact I was taking time off, which was
fantastic.
Really nice.
That's fantastic. So did you do anything mentally or work-wise to prepare yourself to not break that rule and feel like you had to work?
I probably did the equivalent to double shift. It's weird when you're a freelancer because it's not like you're 9 to 5, right? So I was working a lot more than I normally would the week before. And every time I was tired and going normally this would be quitting time, but I got to do 3 more things because I was telling myself I was earning that vacation. So that became the goal set. And I'm a very goal oriented person. So that seemed to work the beforehand. And I was just flat out honest with all my clients. I am not going to be available while I am away. And it worked.
Good for you. Honestly, that's really hard. That's probably one of the largest challenges for me as a business owner, is to unplug, because you feel, well, it'll be okay, just one or two, or just for a few minutes. And honestly, I probably, while we're away, I probably will monitor my email a little, but
don't do it. Don't even look.
I don't know. It's going to be hard. I'll let you know when I'm done. We'll see how well I did. But yeah, so it's challenging, and especially because everything's on our phone. In the days before everything being electronics being so functional, you couldn't work if you weren't there.
This is very true. And that was something I think this is really specifically an American culture issue. I feel like my family in the UK takes vacation and thinks nothing of it. They don't like people I know from Europe are just like, no, I'm on holiday, and there's just no question. Whereas something about our culture is like, I am on vacation and I am enjoying myself, but I can spend an hour and a half checking email,
because it's really that way. Yeah, and I'm jealous, but I shouldn't be jealous, because I can create that own thing within my business, because it's my business, right? So it really is the want to unplug, or it's not the end of the world if you do. And I wish as a culture we embrace that a little bit better, more of that European, you deserve the time off, and well, everybody's better for that. Yeah,
you live longer, you have better mental health. There's just no reason not to take more vacations.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's backtrack a little bit and tell everybody about your business and what you are, how did you get here? What was that process like, and how it's evolved?
The evolution part is funny to me, because I now sit in a place where I'm really grateful. But when COVID hit, of course, I was in panic mode, like everyone, right? Everyone's got this pre and post COVID story. I started as a photographer, and it was a side hustle for sure while I was working in other jobs. I've worked in some sort of marketing, graphics, photography, advertising space for about 15 years. But me being a photographer was this side hustle for a long time. And then I finally decided, that's it. I'm not getting any younger. It is time. I've learned all the things that I know that I needed to know. It's time. 2019, here we go.
And that was good timing.
Yeah. And then a year later, the whole world shuts down. And I was out there saying, I am a photographer, B2B. And if you also need graphic design, sure, I can help with that. If you don't want to deal with multiple vendors, I can take care of that for you. But really, my focus was photography. And I was focused on my geographical area. I'm on Cape Cod and maybe part of the South Shore of Massachusetts. I didn't want to travel too far. I didn't want to spend a ton of time in the car. I wanted to be shooting.
And traveling in that area is challenging.
Well, it can be.
Well, not just not wanting to travel. Yeah. So if you're coming off the Cape or you're going onto the Cape and it happens to be a Thursday or a Friday, you might as well pack an overnight bag and come back on Monday.
100%. Especially in the summer. 4th of July weekend, we locals treat that like it's a hurricane. You buy everything you need, you hunker down, and you don't leave your home because the traffic.
Or you leave really early before
or you just leave the area altogether. Yeah, it's just. But when COVID hit, I had no choice. There was my ability to do what I do became very hard. And a lot of businesses were either shut entirely or they were limited into how much they could allow into their space. And everyone was so stressed out with the information was constantly changing the first 3 to 6 months of this whole ordeal that no one knew what end was up. And I had to flip my business model on its head. I just had to go, okay, graphic design is completely remote. I don't need to show up. We don't need to have an in-person meeting. We can do this over the phone, on Zoom, online. That is how we don't spread germs. Everyone stays put. I will focus on graphics. And then at some point I had this aha moment of, I don't have to be the Cape Cod graphic design girl. I could be anywhere graphic designer. I mean, one of my best friends lives in Singapore, and he and I were speaking on Zoom, and I'm like, I could have clients anywhere. This is ridiculous. So I started networking online everywhere and grew my business. I actually do have a client in California, which is funny to me, because I've never been to the town where that client exists. So I've never been inside their shop, but I've designed stuff that they have on their shelves.
Amazing.
So that's how it evolved. It turned into, it's a graphic design focus with photography if you're near me and you need it. And I do everything online now. That's the new culture.
It's so amazing. So how was the transition from transitioning in 2019 from taking a side hustle to a main thing?
You're actually going to like this answer. I knew I was going to do it for a couple of years. I had started building the plan in my head and was saving every penny. I became this really ridiculous budget focused human being. Every extra penny I earned, it was just going. I put an entire year's worth of what I'm going to need to live off of for a whole year into my savings account before I even gave my notice. And I also started telling people, I'm going to do this full time moving forward. This isn't just going to be a like when I have spare time thing. This will be my focus soon. And so I started sort of the side hustle clients that I had. I started informing them like eventually I'll be there for you full time really soon. So I was building up the client base and keeping money in the bank before I did tell my boss and leave the day job. And I gave her 4 weeks notice before I left. So really good terms with that job.
And that's important. You never burn bridges because you never know. And especially in a small town, you know, Cape Cod is a small town, even though it's bunches of towns. It is a small town. Everybody knows everybody, good or bad, right? And so everybody's in everybody's business, good or bad. And even in a large town, you never burn bridges because you never know where you're going to intersect again.
Absolutely.
And then having savings in place alleviates so much pressure.
It gave me an entire year to build and grow and do. Of course, that year ended with COVID. So, whatever. But no one can predict that. There's no way I could have known.
But can you imagine if you didn't do that and then COVID still happened?
I don't know what would have happened.
It's just a recipe for disaster.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So 2019 happens, you're transitioning and you're figuring out that you are the worldwide graphics girl.
Why not?
Exactly. How do you market that?
That's
such a big endeavor.
Interesting. So virtual art department is the sort of terminology that I use because I thought everyone knew what a graphic designer was and what a graphic designer does. It turns out there's a lot more questions after you say that. But when you tell someone, I run a virtual art department helping small businesses that don't have one in-house, suddenly, and I don't know if it's because of the show Mad Men, but like suddenly everyone knows what an art department is. So if I just tell people like, I'm here to help anyone who doesn't have one, and that it's usually really small companies or even solopreneurs. Honestly, most of my clients are other solopreneurs who are very passionate about what they do and don't have time to do what I do.
That's a great explanation because I might be one of the very few that honestly never saw Mad Men. So I'm in the super minority, but explaining yourself like that, it creates a picture in your head.
Yeah, people seem to get it as soon as I.
I'm like, I don't need a graphic arts person. Why would I need that? I could use an art department though.
Right. Yeah, it's really interesting because it's still all graphic design. 90% of what I do is graphics, but art department just translates for people.
And so what are examples of your art department? How have you helped clients?
Well, if they don't have a logo, that's the first step, but it is only the first step. It's not the end of the discussion of someone's brand. But a lot of times people have the logo, but then they don't know what to do after that. You might even have logged on to some sort of online program to hire out a robot to make your logo for you. I'm not going to name any names, but everyone knows what I'm talking about, to get your logo, but then you don't know what to do with that, right? So you can build the brand identity moving forward. So your colors, your fonts, anything that you're using anywhere, online or in print. I have many years of print experience. So what's interesting is that if you're only designed for the web, you might not know how things will translate once it's physically created. The fact that I come with print experience helps me to be able to explain to the client, hey, this is not going to look good if you go to a print shop and try to make this happen in real life. There are adjustments need to be made. So
I can see how that would make a huge difference, because for me, I can't visualize how something would look. You know, even if you said, what if we painted the room this color? I have to defer to my husband, to be very honest, because I don't know. Well, that's a nice color, but it's going to look really terrible on a wall. Right. So having resources, or having somebody that can imagine or envision why it's not going to look well, or what would look better, would make such a difference.
Yes.
Especially for solo entrepreneurs that that's their job, isn't to spend time and brain power on that. Their job is to build their business.
And I actually really love working with other solopreneurs, because they're so passionate about what they do, and what they do, who knows? I've met people who've explained industries to me that I didn't even know existed. And then I get it from someone who's so passionate about it, they're dedicating their entire life to working on it. So that is, I believe, a privilege of mine, that I get to talk to these people and hear about these really interesting things. But then my wheels immediately start turning into the visual space of like, okay, so how do I translate that to a picture? How do I translate that to something that will grab someone else's attention in a visual way, so they stop and pay attention? And that, when I can do that for a client who they don't know how to do it yet, and I can be like, what about this? Does this work for you? And I love it when they're like, oh my God, that's it. That's probably my favorite thing.
You have to take a deeper dive into their business to understand what their business is before you do that. And how do you do that?
So usually it's a Zoom call. Because I really enjoy not only hearing about it, but seeing people's faces when they talk about something they're passionate about really helps me understand what are the things that are most important to them. And then I usually do some time researching, which, so I go online and I do research about the industry, maybe about this person, or if they tell me that they have people they look up to in the industry, I'll research those people.
Oh, okay.
And what's fun is that every computer in the world is based on algorithms, right? So the ads that I see will change based on the clients I'm working with,
wow.
Which is just like a fun aside for me, when I'm like, why am I seeing an ad about like, a forklift? And I go, oh, because of the client I was working with last. Got it. I have no need for a forklift, but I know why the computer thinks I do. So it's just so funny.
That's frightening and really a riot at the same time.
They're on it. It's usually within a few days I'll notice the ads change.
And when people say, well, I was talking about this, and all of a sudden it showed up on my phone, which actually happened just the other day.
It's so true. Yeah. They're listening and they are paying attention to keystrokes everywhere you go.
But then the keystroke part, that would also, I don't know, maybe this question's like super out there. So if you say, you can go, you're not even close, so we can talk about something else. But do you ever think about, so your client that you're working with, do you ever think about the end user, or the customer, their customer, and what they might be researching around your client's business?
Yeah. So
is that a thing?
Yeah. So ultimately that's search engine optimization.
Oh, see, it is a thing.
And which is not my specialty, but it is definitely a part of marketing, is knowing the language people are using. How are people trying to find this information? Like I don't really necessarily always use the word graphic designer, because that's not really what people necessarily know they need, but they might need a logo designer, right? So I have to think about different ways to process any business, mine or someone else's. But there are actual specialists out there who would be able to speak to that better than I can on the SEO side. I just know it on a more generic marketing end.
And so do you have a particular niche of business that you like to work with, or that you've really enjoyed working with?
I think the the ones that make me happier are the ones who they're out there trying to save the world in their own little way, whatever that means. And that can mean a lot of different things, but the heart-centered, focused folks who are out there making the world either in small or big ways. And if I can help them change the world, especially if I agree with the mission, like, that just makes me feel all the better. Like, I can't believe I got to help that organization move forward in their mission.
That's interesting. You know why I think that's interesting? Because whenever you talk about your business, you light up. And so you take a heart-centered approach to your clients, and you enjoy your clients that take a heart-centered approach to their end user or their business. There's some commonality there.
It's all about the good vibes.
Yeah. And the personal touch too, right? Taking the time to understand and listen and ask questions about them to figure out what they need.
And everything I do is customized for them, right? So could you do what I do yourself? Yes, you could find online programs that offer templates. You could do it yourself if you feel like you have the time. 100%. You really, really could. But if you want it to be really specific to what you're doing to help you stand out, that's when the customization is helpful. And I try to make everything I do different for each client.
Mm-hmm. And for me, when we went through creating the logo for Discover Rising Tides, in the beginning, I went through a cheap route, because I didn't know what I wanted and I needed to start someplace. And then I'm like, And so when I was talking to Michelle to do the logo for Discover Rising Tides, I couldn't express what I wanted because I didn't know. I knew I would know when I saw it, and I knew what I didn't like, but it was really hard for me to put into words what I wanted, and I depended upon somebody to pull it out of me, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's again why I like to have conversations with people where I can see their faces, because they'll light up with certain things, and that'll help, influence the outcome of the artwork.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes a difference. It really does. And that's why I think it's important to talk with people like you and entrepreneurs that are really making such a difference, but also providing in this virtual world, we still have to provide a personal interaction. Everything can't be, it's almost more important now not to have things so automated, and we have to take the extra step to become more personal.
We've been so isolated for the last 2 years. I'm done with robots. I would like to go back to everything, obviously nothing will ever go back to exactly the way it was. We're in a new sort of hybrid culture, but yeah, the human interaction piece is just, everyone's craving it on some level.
Yeah, without a doubt. So where do you think so your business has really developed a ton over the last 3 years in ways that you couldn't have imagined.
Oh yeah.
So can you imagine where you might be in the next 3 or 5 years? That's such one of those, every person asks that question, but I really mean it.
I feel like that, I feel like whatever I imagine, it probably won't be accurate. I do this exercise pretty regularly, actually. I try to what's going to be happening 3 years today, right? You just sort of think to yourself, it's whatever day of the week it'll be, and what is your life going to look like? And I keep going back and forth between what I'm doing now is exactly where I want to be in 3 years, and then I want to be doing more or less or change. And I don't know that I have a good answer for the future. I just know that I want to stay happy. And I know it's going to be involved with being creative in some space.
And being open for when that experience arises.
You have to be, I think. If you try to stay rigid, you're just going to sink.
Oh, no. I get stuck in those rigid moments, and it feels really heavy, and I have to work my way out of it. How do you stay motivated? What motivates you?
Ooh. Well, like I said earlier, I'm really goal oriented. So I make myself the lists for the day, the week, the month, the goals, the things that'll make me happy. And then I'm a kid of the 80s, right? So like games, I grew up with games being a thing, like electronic games, right? The whole risk reward thing gets hardwired into our brains. So I make a lot of things into games. If I can do this, then I get that. And it's the risk reward, like my vacation, right? I worked really hard the week before I left so I could earn my trip. I do that sort of stuff a lot. And sometimes it's, if I get everything done by 10 a.m. on Friday, I can have the rest of Friday to go play in my flower garden or go to the beach or do this or that. And that works really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because it can be a challenge if you are, you're a solo entrepreneur. It can be a challenge. And because we are a little bit more isolated, you're not going out to see as many people, you're doing it virtually to stay fresh or stay motivated.
That's, again, like my yard is filled with flowers this time of year. Mm-hmm. I have the good fortune of my partner is an arborist and like works in the green space outdoors all the time. And she's got an amazing green thumb. So our yard is beautiful.
And you don't have to do it all.
I help, but man, she does the lion's share, right? And I enjoy just sometimes all you have is 30 seconds, but like the walk to my mailbox is right now daffodils and tulips, like just going to my mailbox and back. So I can just have those 30 seconds of peace out with these little bits of peace of flowers and beauty and watch a bee for a minute and then go back to work. And that really helps.
What does the outside look like for you? Where do you find yourself? What do you do other than walking to the mailbox?
I actually still really love playing with my camera. That's actually what got me started, was the fact that I was the kid who always had a camera on me. Even in my backpack in high school, I always had a camera. So I'll go for walks with my camera in the woods or out by the beach, and I try to find unique, interesting things. And I believe the term is flow, but I'm not always I'm not always a words person, but I will lose time in the best possible way when I am playing with my camera. In fact, on one of the mornings where we walked down to the beach to watch the sunrise, I brought my camera with me, and I was so getting into changing the angle and doing and playing that I was getting soaked by waves and didn't really notice. I was like bending down and trying to get an angle of the sun coming across the water, and it's really with the water in the foreground, and I had getting slapped with waves and I didn't even know until I stood up and walked away. So I just get lost in the joy of seeing outside through a frame in my camera. That really, I don't know why, but that just zens me back to center.
Fantastic. How far from the water are you? Well, Cape Cod across the beam is not that wide.
So by Cape Cod standards, I live really far from the water. It's a whole 10-minute drive.
Holy cow! How can you manage?
But I grew up in the Berkshires. I grew up in the mountain region of Western Mass. So I grew up. The beach was a 4-hour drive. So 10 minutes to me feels close. Yeah. But by anyone who grew up here, they're like, "God, you live in the middle of nowhere."
Yeah. So here's a question. Here's what happened to me today. I scheduled an outdoor activity today. Originally, I scheduled it for, right after I got up, and then something came up that I couldn't ignore. So I'm like, that's okay, because I'm going to do these two little things. I'll be done by 9:15, and I have this block of time that I've set aside that I'm going to do this thing. I was ready. And then some things happened. And then some things happened. And I had some work things that I honestly had to take care of that couldn't wait 3 hours. And it's amazing what that does to the 6 inches between your ears. Because I was ready, because Tuesdays are, I don't get to do a lot. It starts early. We see each other on Tuesday morning through the networking group. And for me, that starts at 7:30. And I'm usually working until 6 because it's just a day of stuff. And then when Wednesday comes around, I've got some time and I will block it off trying to make my way through the week. And so today it didn't happen. And so hopefully this afternoon I'm going to be able to, but I have this funny inkling that the things I didn't finish need to get done.
Oh no.
Yeah, I know, right? So sometimes that's really hard for me to work out of, right? Does that happen to you? And how do you work yourself out of that?
Oh my God, that definitely happens to me. I try to give myself 30 minutes every morning before I start work. And in that 30 minutes, I'm allowed to do whatever I want. It could be sit on my back deck with my coffee and watch the birds. It could be go for a walk. It could be watch a television program. It could literally be anything. But on the mornings, I don't get it because I have an early meeting or this or that. It throws off my entire day. And it builds slow over the course of the day. And at some point it'll click. Like, why am I so anxious? Why am I fidgety? And what is wrong? And I'll go, oh, I didn't get my 30 minutes this morning. And it'll just, and so I actually have an app on my phone that does like quick meditations. They're like 5 minutes, 7 minutes. They're not hard to fit into your day. And I will give myself permission to leave my computer screen for those minutes and do that. And it may or may not be outside, although I do have skylights in my bedroom, so I can feel like the sun's on my face, even though it isn't. And that'll be my recenter when I've missed.
And it recharges.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
There's my cat saying hello.
And yeah, that's fantastic. That's a really great tip. You do have to recenter. You have to recenter your brain. And then for me, I have to be careful that I'm going, if I'm going to promise myself that I'm going to do it, I have to follow through, because otherwise it just makes the rest of the day really cranky.
Yeah, but also you have to be able to trust yourself. If you're giving yourself permission to block this time and then you don't follow through and you stop trusting yourself, that's a bigger problem.
It really is. It really is. And at what point in time, nobody is that important not to take the time for themselves. So I said that so I would hear it. So what kind of clients are you looking for now? How can I help you? What type of business, or who would you like, as Fred says in our networking group, who would you like to talk to?
So I enjoy speaking with other people in the marketing space, typically because that's a great way to share clients. I love
that, because it's not competitive, it's supportive.
No, right, exactly. There's definitely people who don't do what I do and people who do what I don't, and then we can share.
Right.
So that's actually how I prefer to network. And then I got the opportunity earlier this year to work on a project that was for a women's business conference. And I got to it started with, they asked me to create the logo. And then I ended up being brought in and being on their marketing committee and helping with all of the graphics for both print and a lot of the online graphics, not all of it, but quite a bit. And that opened my eyes to this whole other opportunity that I'd been so focused on working directly with business owners, that there are events and events need, and the world's opening back up. The events are happening again. Mm-hmm. And so I'm slowly trying to put together what that might look like in my business. And that might be part of that. In 3 years, I'm doing something totally different, but still in the space thing. Like I might be focusing more on helping events move their mission forward. I'm not really sure yet.
Well, that could be fun, because that could hit a lot of that heart-centered those heart-centered pieces for the events that are really making a difference and touching other people.
Yeah, exactly. So those kind of conferences where there's resources and things like that are really on a mission to help, that could be really fun. That's what this was. This was a way for women here on Cape Cod to find resources to help grow their businesses. And I loved that I got to see the behind the scenes of making that happen. So that could be something we can move forward with.
That's fantastic. I love the excitement and the passion that you bring to this. I think it's phenomenal, and it really says a lot for your business and your vision for other people as well.
Thank you.
So how do people find you?
On the internet. Yeah, I have a website, and I'm on LinkedIn more than Facebook and Instagram, although I do have them. And on my website, I have a page on my website called Stay in Touch. And on it can be a little overwhelming, but on it is every possible way one could reach me, because I'm willing to meet people where they're at in their communication needs. If you are a phone person, if you're an email person, if you're a Zoom person, if you're a text message person, all of it's on there, whatever you need.
Great. Super. And we'll make sure we put your contact information in the show notes.
Yeah, my name's weird, so the only I'll say like it's imagesbysaraphina.com, and then people don't know how to spell Saraphina. But I will say this: the PH in Saraphina for the sound is the same as photography and graphic design. So it's all PHs across the board.
If you can't figure that out, there's some people's got some challenges.
It's okay.
That's fantastic. Is there anything that I should have asked you or that we should have covered? Did we get it all?
I think we got it all.
Fantastic. That's awesome. So thank you. Thank you for spending time with me today. And I look forward to seeing you weekly on our networking meetings. And I appreciate your time and sharing your story today, Saraphina.
Thank you for having me. This was a blast.
I'm glad you enjoyed it too. Have a great day. Thanks so much. Thank you so much for listening today. Today's show was sponsored by Seaside Solutions, my financial services company. As a business owner, it's easy to be pulled in many different directions, and often taking care of yourself plummets to the bottom of the list. For me, I find myself outside to reground. My time outdoors helps me manage my day more effectively and be more present for my clients. Through this, Discover Rising Tides was born. At Seaside Solutions, we truly believe that education is the foundation of financial wellness. Our primary focus is to provide guidance that is designed to help you achieve your long-term financial goals and visions. Working with a plan allows space for doing more things that you love, like being outside to make the inside better. If I can help you create or realign your plan, or if you would like to be added to my weekly newsletter, please let me know. This week's topic was 5 ways to set more achievable goals. Your referral means the big, beautiful world to me. And if I can help, please let me know. And thank you so much for listening, and see you next time.